Imagine if the medical community or society gave a damn about Black women. This woman could still be alive. Beauty YouTuber Jessica Pettway, 36, dies of cervical cancer after misdiagnosis. Let's get into this story. Jessica Pettway, a beauty influencer with over 16 million views on YouTube, has died. She was 36. Her death comes nearly 9 months after she revealed that she had been diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer in a candid Instagram post. Her sister, Rainey, announced the news on Instagram Friday. It's my birthday today, and the only thing I could ever wish for is God to bring you back to this earth. I lost my beautiful big sister 2 days ago, and my heart has never felt pain like this, wrote Rainey underneath a photo of the two of them, according to the outlet. The outlet reported that Rainey remembered her sister as amazing, strong, confident, as someone with so much wisdom, prayed for me, and helped me become a better mother. While going public with her diagnosis in July 2023, Petway revealed that she had initially been misdiagnosed with fibroids, described as common growths of the uterus. I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. I don't even know where to begin, but I want to share why I've been gone for so long, and perhaps at least one person is encouraged by my story. So here's the picture that she posted, and I'm going to read what she put in the caption. I took these photos a few days ago, and it's currently my favorite photo of myself. It brings me so much joy to see how far I've come, because a few months ago I received devastating news. I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. I don't even know where to begin, but I want to share why I've been gone for so long in my hopes that at least one person is encouraged by my story. So here it goes. Last June, I was having intense vaginal bleeding. And when I say intense, I mean I was literally bleeding out. I called around and asked other women if they experienced this before, and the majority of them said they have. I thought, well, maybe this is normal. This is a normal thing that women go through. I was experiencing extreme fatigue, weakness, and just not feeling myself. But again, I accepted this as a normal symptom that most women go through. Well, on July 1st, 2022, at 4 a.m., my husband found me in the bathroom, unresponsive and not breathing. I had literally passed away. He called on Jesus to bring me back, and I came back. I was rushed to the hospital where they told me the extreme blood loss was due to fibroids. My gyno made it seem like it was so normal and common. I didn't think much of it. However, I was passing clots the size of a placenta, which was really alarming. They kept me overnight and released me the next day. Fast forward to July 22nd, I was hospitalized again for the same thing. Again, the medical professionals treated it like it was not that alarming since it was just a fibroid. The bleeding eventually stopped, but was replaced with labor-like pains. My life became so limited. On December 31st, 2022, the bleeding came back and it would not stop. I was hospitalized again January 7th and was there for a week. I was told I could not get surgery to remove this fibroid due to my lack of blood supply. My hemoglobin level was at a 4. I had to receive 10 blood transfusions during my hospital stay. They recommended I do a biopsy. As I went in for my appointment, this doctor asked if she could just look down there first. She was the first to show some concern. I told her it was okay to check. It didn't take long before she looked at me and she said she could not even see my cervix because it was blocked by a huge mass. She scheduled me an appointment with an oncologist that following week. On February 8th, 2023, he performed an outpatient biopsy on me. When I woke up from anesthesia, he casually said, "Yep, you have stage 3 cervical cancer." It turns out it was not a fibroid, but cancer. I was misdiagnosed all of this time. I remember hearing that and immediately saying to myself, I refuse to make an agreement with that diagnosis, and so I didn't. Being told I have cancer didn't devastate me. It was the reaction of those close to me. I knew that God is my healer and that no weapon formed against me, not even cancer, would prosper. I knew that I am more than a conqueror and that I will get through this. However, the symptoms grew stronger. The hospital became my second home. By February 23, I had to have over 18 blood transfusions. 18. I lost weight. I felt weak, and overall, I couldn't understand why. Why me, Lord? What did I do to deserve this? Laying in bed in agonizing pain, I cried out to God to show me what to do. Because at times like this, I felt like death would be an easier option. But then God showed me that what I was going through had nothing to do with what I did. He showed me that I was not alone and that He knew exactly how I felt. Most importantly, He had already provided the healing that I was seeking. He said, "My spirit is in you," which means my power is in you. Rest in my promises and believe that you are already healed. Well, that was April 13th, and I haven't been back to the hospital. I have not had any blood transfusions since then. I gained my appetite back. I got up and out of bed. I gained my mobility. My faith grew significantly, and anytime I felt my faith being attacked, I could hear God reminding me to live. And that is exactly what I am doing. I am living because the one who gave life abundantly lives in me. Do I still have days where I feel down? Sure, but I'm quickly reminded that my healing was paid for on the cross. We don't get to pick our storms, but we choose how we go through them. And the believer has an advantage because we don't go through it alone. Jesus is there with us, using our storm for His glory. So no matter what you're faced with, always remember that all things work together for the good of those who love God. Every testimony begins with a test, and God is still beautifying mine. So, no matter how big or small your sickness is, remember that God has already provided healing for you. Believe it, receive it, live it, and rest in it. God bless you all. So, here she is with her husband and their two children. Here she is continuing to talk. Anytime you're dealing with an illness, it not only affects you, but it also changes the lives of those closest to you. This year rocked our world, from the countless hospital stays to the financial strain. We've been through it all. The girls are too young to understand, yet they noticed the changes. She expressed that watching her husband break down was rough, but that they made a commitment that we would get through this together. We moved forward and did our best to not allow current circumstances to overtake us. It was definitely not easy, but we made it this far. This is another reason why we have got to socialize and teach boys how to properly take care of themselves. Because as sad as this story is, this woman is gone, and now this man has to be the caretaker for these two children. And, now he has to come in and do all of the things that she would typically be doing, provide the comfort, the support, all of that for these two young girls. This is another reason why, all of these roles and things that we're talking about have got to be abolished, and partnership has got to be stressed. And we have got to get to a point where Black women in our pain is taken seriously, because there is no reason why this 36-year-old mother should be gone, why they didn't take a mass and send it off to get tested. Anyway, when I had a lump in my arm, it was benign, but when they took it out of my arm, they sent it to a lab to get tested. Why? Why? How does she have to have this many blood transfusions and nobody took notice? The medical community is failing Black women, despite the fact that many advances in medical history have been on the backs and bodies and blood of Black women. And I'm talking, the gynecological advances, HeLa cells, and all of that. There's no reason why this young mother should be gone. Jump in the comments. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So this is an op-ed from a few days ago. I'm going to read the op-ed, and then I'm going to editorialize it in a way that brings it back to some of the things that I have been talking about. This man, Bruce Wexler, says, "What I've learned about living alone after losing my wife of 42 years." He says, "This year, at the age of 72, I started living alone for the first time in my life. For 42 years before that, I lived with my wife, Diane, who passed away in December. In college and as a young man, I always had roommates. When my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer about a year ago, she tried to prepare me for living alone. She taught me how to do the laundry. She showed me where the contact information was for the various tradespeople who repair our 100-year-old house. He said all of this was necessary practical information, but I told her I didn't understand how I could live without her. We have a wonderful family and really good friends, she said. Depend on them. This has been good advice, but family and friends don't live under the same roof as me. They're not there when I complain about a McMansion going up down the block or when I wake from a bad dream in the middle of the night. It's also difficult to live alone in a house suited for 4 people. It was just right for me, my wife, and our 2 children. Now it feels vast, even though it's not. And I wander its empty spaces at night like a character in a gothic horror novel, startled by every floorboard creak. It would be easier to live by myself if I were more outgoing. Diane was much more social than I am. She drew a steady stream of people to our door and engaged in conversations with everyone, not just friends and neighbors, but also the mailman and Amazon delivery employees. Diane was what my mother referred to as a balabusta, Yiddish for good homemaker. She was always vacuuming, dusting, straightening, and I became accustomed to her literally sweeping through a room. I miss her familiar motions. To compensate for their absence, I fill the house with noise and light. I blast the stereo. I turn on lamps in every room as it grows dark. I watch television as I eat dinner with my new best friend, CNN's Erin Burnett. I didn't need the U.S. Surgeon General's recent report on loneliness to know that it's dangerous to be alone for extended periods of time. But even on my best days, when it comes to groups, I'm not much of a joiner. I tried an online site for people who have lost their spouses, but it felt like being locked in a virtual room saturated with grief. It made me want to be by myself. Isolation is a slippery slope that can send you splashing down into depression's depths. To avoid it, I do what my wife advised and see or at least talk to family and friends as much as possible. None of this, though, teaches me how to live alone. I suspect I have to avoid being lonely. A neat trick, if you can pull it off. I make the effort to keep busy, to exercise, continue working full time, and meet friends for lunch. People tell me that eventually I'll be ready for a relationship with someone else, the ultimate cure for living alone. I can't imagine it, just as I wouldn't want to be the quarterback that would take over for Tom Brady. I wouldn't want to be the woman who takes over for Diane. She was the one. For now, at least I prefer not to date the equivalent of Mac Jones. I don't really get that reference, but okay. I resolved to go on alone and make the best of it, engaging in small talk with the delivery people and listening to sad songs. Linda Ronstadt, Long, Long Time, is possibly the saddest song ever sung. As I wander from room to room during my insomnia midnights, the house sometimes comes alive with memories. Diane's piano still squats in the music room where she taught her students, and I can hear her patient voice correcting their mistakes. Upstairs are our children's bedrooms where I read them Green Eggs and Ham and Where the Wild Things Are. The fireplace in the living room used to be our family gathering spot during holidays, the burning, crackling oak and birch punctuating our conversations. William Faulkner wrote, "The past is never dead. It's not even past." I never understood this famous quote until I began to live alone. Diane may be gone and my kids may live more than 1,000 miles away, but the memories keep them close and me not so much alone. Okay, a few things stood out to me. This woman had to teach this man how to live before she died because she knew that she was dying. So many people, so many of these men can go forever without knowing how to properly adult because there is always some woman there helping. The mom to wife pipeline was there for that generation, and the mom to wife pipeline is currently drying up. So men are going to have to learn how to adult. Boys are going to have to be taught how to live independently of women, cook and clean and do all of the things that are typically seen as women's work or girls' work or gendered into the female realm. Because Having to teach someone how to call someone to come in and fix your house that you have lived in for decades is already kind of a mess. Trying to tell your adult husband that yes, you should lean on your friends and family. Why do you have to teach somebody this? Why isn't it innate? It's because we as a society, not we have socialized women to be those caretakers and for men to have this learned helplessness that they don't have to be responsible for themselves. And so when they are responsible for themselves, this is what we're seeing these days with these men failing and flailing. And I'm not saying this in a negative way towards this man. I don't know this man and I don't know that he is failing and flailing, but it's just the fact that she had the additional burden on top of being sick to make sure that her husband was taken care of. We have seen a lot of commentary on how these men are failing and flailing in many different ways. And I'm going to connect all of this together because what we are seeing as women are able to do things. We're independent. We have our own financial security. We can pick and choose when or if we decide to be in relationships. And for this reason, men are freaking out because now they have to be responsible for more than just going to work. They have to be responsible for the invisible labor that women and girls were typically doing, and that I, as a content creator and a woman, am telling women to pull back on and make these men hold their own nuts. And like I said, I'm not really connecting it with that man that was in that op-ed, but I'm just talking about the fact that many of them don't know how to do these things by themselves, despite the fact that they will come in online and talk about how, they're the leaders and they built everything and they did all of this. But many times with the invisible support of the women that are in the background, making sure that the laundry is clean, that the house is organized, that the appointments have been made, that the children are taken care of, that the man is taking his medicine, all of that. There are things in the background that are undervalued and underappreciated that women are no longer engaging in. And the whole mom to wife pipeline drying up is causing a lot of the failing and the flailing that we're seeing currently. Women can survive on our own. We can. But we're going to have to see how these men, how they handle having to hold their own nuts. All right, so go ahead. Let me know what you think of this, how I tied it together, and how we're going to continue to pull back. It's only going to make them stronger. And what I also want to see is we're going to have to create strategies to shift culture, continue to shift culture, because the boys of right now can still be saved. We can teach them how to be adults, be humans that can survive despite being in a relationship or not being in a relationship. So join the conversation. Let's talk about it. The mom to wife pipeline drying up, learn helplessness, all of that. So this is from CNN, but other news outlets are reporting this as well. U.S. memorials reach highest level in over a decade, sparked by surge in medication memorial. I wish I didn't have to self-censor, but that's the world that we live in right now. So just retune your ears. You know what I'm saying. So abortions are on the rise in the United States, despite the bans that have taken effect in more than a dozen states since the U.S. Supreme Court's Dobbs decision that revoked the federal right to abortion in June 2022. There were more than 1 million of them in 2023, the highest rate in more than a decade, a 10% jump from 2020, according to a report released Tuesday by the Guttmacher Institute, a research and policy organization focused on sexual and reproductive health that supports mammorphin rights. The latest trends also suggest that medication mammorphin is a more common option than ever. So if y'all look at this graph, things have been on a downward trend as far as mammorphin goes. Look, it doesn't look like it starts to turn back up until 2013, and it's been on a slight upward trajectory. So I am wondering what is going on. Is it because the Christo fascists started coming for women's rights and trying to restrict birth control? I don't know. But now women are moving in a different direction, and they're like, I don't want this. And maybe that is what is making these Christo fascists work even harder. It says, although some abortions all but stopped in 14 states with total bans, nearly every other state has had an increase in the number of them provided from 2020 to 2023. As the geography of some abortion care shifted amid a fractured policy landscape, the 10% increase nationwide meant that states without total bans saw a 25% increase in those years. The drastic loss of access in states with bans has been counterbalanced by the monumental efforts on the parts of clinics, abortion funds, and logistical support organizations to help people in banned states access care through financial and practical support. States bordering those with bans had particularly large increases, but abortion also increased in states where they remained legal. It is very possible that while access was dramatically curtailed for people living in banned states, access substantially improved for residents of states without bans. In addition to states' policies enacted to protect patients' access to care and increase financial support from abortion funds, researchers from the Guttmacher Institute suggest that improved access to telehealth in recent years may have made medications for abortion more broadly available. Medications for abortion has become more common than ever post-Roe. According to another new Guttmacher report, nearly two-thirds of all of them in the United States in 2023, an estimated 642,700 were medications for abortions, the report says. So if you look at this purple line, it is going up. That means increasing. Medical abortion is a method by which someone ends their pregnancy by taking two pills, mifepristone and misoprostol, rather than having an actual surgical procedure. This option has become steadily more common over the 2 decades it's been available, rising from less than 10% of all of them in 2001 to 53% in 2020 and 63% in 2023. But mifepristone, the drug that was used, approved for abortion by the use of the FDA in 2000, faces an unprecedented legal challenge. On March 26, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in a case that puts access to the medication at stake, even in states where abortion remains legal, and raises questions about the authority that courts have to overrule determinations by the FDA experts about the drug's safety. Misoprostol can be used on its own for medication and is an alternative, but research suggests that using both pills together is the gold standard. Research has long found that medications for abortion is safe and effective, but another recent study found that to be true even when the patient gets the medicine through a telehealth appointment. Any return to restrictions on medications for abortion provision via telemedicine would be detrimental for people who either prefer or only have access through using telemedicine, the Guttmacher researchers wrote in a new report. While the current court case only affects the use of mifepristone, and a misoprostol only regimen is also a safe and effective method of medications for abortion. Everyone seeking one should have access to the full range of safe, effective options. So it actually says that the trends are actually probably an undercount. They probably undercount the number of abortions in the United States, as the data does not include those that happen outside of the formal healthcare system or medications for abortions that were sent to people in states where it is banned. So it's probably an undercount. And what we are seeing is women simply don't want to have these babies right now. And instead of making the situation where it is feasible to have kids, the economy is failing, childcare is scarce and expensive, inflation is harsh, buying food is harsh, housing and the cost of rent is ridiculous. Why would people want to have babies right now? And you are seeing women repelling at that idea. All right, jump in the conversation. Tell me what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Okay, last news article. The bright side of divorce, according to experts. Amy Mazur spends holidays and vacations with her kids and their father, even after a divorce. It is so much less stressful for my children and for myself, said Mazur, a clinical social worker in Brooklyn, New York. Her relationship with her ex-husband isn't the picture that's often painted of life after divorce, but it's what works best for her family, she said. The marriage had begun in young adulthood, and when it no longer worked for the people they grew into, she said they found a way to love and support one another while no longer being married. Divorce rates have steadily been trending downward in the U.S., according to recent data, but marriages ending are still a common disruptive experience. Most people probably don't head into marriage anticipating divorce, but for those who find themselves in one, there are ways to encourage compassion for one another and ultimately build something stronger, expert says. Grieving the loss. A divorce can be amicable, yet still marked by loss and grief, says Rebecca Hendricks, a marriage and family therapist in New York. There is the loss of the life you've built, including the home you lived in together, a name you may have shared, and the routines you developed, she added. And then there are the emotional ties. This is your family. You have bonded with this person for better or worse, even if you argue all the time, even if it's kind of run its course and you both are not happy, you're still attached to this person. One of the biggest hurdles Washington, D.C. based marriage and family therapist Marissa Nelson sees couples struggle with is the grief over the loss and the vision they had for their life. As with any other kind of loss, it's important to find support to move through the emotions that come with grief, such as anger, sadness, and the difficulty reaching acceptance. Support can come from a therapist, a religious leader, friends, a divorce support group, or even books and media that make you feel less alone. It's even better if you can ask your support network for specific things that could help you move through grief, Hendricks said. A recurring weekly dinner or a walk with a friend 2 or 3 times a week can get yourself out of the house and can go a long way. Reaching out to a few friends saying, hey, I'm going through a hard time, I could really use some support, is a huge, huge step for a lot of people, creating a new relationship together. But loss isn't the only thing to come out of divorce. Couples can also build a new relationship with one another. They can create any sort of divorce that they want to create if they're co-creating it together, meaning you don't have to be sad, angry, vindictive, petty, or whatever. You can say, you know what, we have reached a different point in our lives. We need to separate, but we need to be better for the kids. All right, this was an interesting one. Y'all go ahead, like, comment, share, and if you made it this far, go ahead and hit the subscribe button.